Postseason catch-ups and conversations, and for this one, we go to Emory University, catch up with head women's soccer coach Sue Patberg as she gets ready to hit the road to Dubuque, Iowa, in the Sweet 16 of the Division III tournament. Welcome back, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having us back. It's great.
Oh, I mean, we are firm believers in ritual. You know, you're on the network, you win. Keep being on the network. I know that you as a coach, well, let me ask you this. What kind of rituals do you have? I'm not going to say superstitions. What kind of rituals?
You know, honestly, they kind of evolve. Every season is a little bit different. And this year, I honestly tried so hard to not have any rituals. And for the most part, I think I've achieved it. I've achieved it.
Okay.
Actually. So I don't have any. I mean, I don't like to be rushed on game day. Kat and I will meet, and I don't want to be rushed in that meeting. And I try to get a workout in the morning so that I'm not, it helps with the nerves. But truthfully, I've been really trying to stay away from rituals this season.
When it comes to your assistant coaches, let me ask about this. What is it like having each one of them around as a piece of the puzzle to help have things fit by the time you get to a specific game day?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, especially with these big weekends when we're traveling, everybody is jumping in. I mean, once we found out we were in the NCAA tournament, we were hosting and figured out who we were playing, everyone was like, okay, I'm going to do a deep dive on this. I'm going to see if there's any penalty kicks. I'm going to look for the free kicks. I'm going to see if I can screen grab some older games. And I mean, every single one of them is just jumps in and, finds their niche of how they can help us. And even all kinds of last minute things. Like I called, Lindsay Cobb today. Kat and I were doing a lot of film, and all of a sudden we realized, oh, we're leaving in the morning. We should probably get them breakfast. So I'm like calling Cobb going, hey, by the way, can you help me with breakfast tomorrow as we head to the airport? So yeah, it's all hands on deck for sure.
She's the one that gets to stop at Panera right there in Emory Village on the way into campus. Is that how this works?
Yeah, well, I really just left it up to her to get whatever makes sense for her on the way in. Give us a variety, and let's give them an option to eat some breakfast.
When it comes to traveling to a location that doesn't really have, you're going from an international airport. I don't think Dubuque has an international airport. You're not going from point A to point B. How difficult is it? I think that this is probably one of the more underreported ideas when it comes to postseasons, is getting everybody together, getting everything organized, making sure that you don't leave anything behind that you need, and going to a place like Dubuque, Iowa. How much thought has to go into something like this?
It is a mad scramble, to be honest with you. Monday morning, you're just on the phone with Shorts Travel. And while you're on the phone and they're trying to, for us, we had to look at 4 airports. We couldn't get into 2 Quad Cities and one other in Iowa. We tried Madison. So we ended up in O'Hare, unfortunately. So we've got to land in O'Hare and then drive 3.5 hours to Dubuque. But it was a mad scramble because you've got to update all your athletes with their, names and their dates of birth and their middle names. And, and meanwhile you're on hold with the travel agent and she's just searching, I got 9 people on this flight. I've got 11 on this flight. And it's one thing when you're coming home from the NCAA tournament to have to spread out and send a coach with, 2 or 3 groups, but it's a whole different story when you're going. You all have to be there together at the same time.
So how many different groups are having to travel? Did you break it up into 2? How is this going to work out?
No, we couldn't break it up into 2 even to get closer. So the other airports in Iowa are only about an hour away. So we've got our whole team on a flight tomorrow morning out of Atlanta into Chicago. So there's 37 of us traveling together.
Wow.
And then bus will pick us up, and then we'll head over and we'll get a training session in tomorrow afternoon, which will be good.
Now that you've had a couple days to sit back and think about round 1 and round 2, what has stuck with you from the 2 wins that got you into the Sweet 16?
Well, one of the things I think I mentioned to you about like a Methodist is you know, that should happen. However, whether it actually is going to come to fruition or not, you don't know, because that's those kind of games that can be scary. So that went exactly how we had hoped it was going to be. 3 goals first half, 3 goals second half. Really we're able to go deep into our roster to play fantastic. PLU, we knew they were just going to be very good. I think it was they were pretty tired when we got to the second half, because that game before Maryville, that was a great game. So we knew that we could win, but we also knew they had the number 11 up top, who's very creative, dangerous, kind of relentless, and we had to stop her, which our team was able to do, our defenders, our goalkeeper. So
when you look back at the numbers from this matchup against the Lutes, 23 shots compared to 3, 8 of them on target. It was just a staggering number in the imbalance of how things ended up offensively. It was only the one goal that you needed, obviously, at the end of the day, but 23-3 in shots, 8-2 on target.
Yeah, and looking back and having watched the game, some of our shots weren't the greatest. Even a couple of those that were on frame were. Matter of fact, the one that we ended up kind of scoring off of wasn't the strongest shot. She collected it with her feet. I don't really, what was happening when she decided to dribble towards the corner of the field, and that's when we were able to toe poke it away, and Woody was crossing it, and then Michaela got a piece of it just perfectly to Nimmer, who just hit it one time. But the actual shot coming in was, it's kind of a slow roller.
Well, and at the same time, though, you mentioned scouting and how important it is. And you have a keeper in this instance who is just kind of keeping an eye on the ball and kind of going away from the far post. And it was almost like, for Atlanta United fans, it was at a 90-degree angle, but it was almost like what Jamal Tiare did earlier this season for Atlanta United, where the keeper's kind of focusing on one thing, and you have a player come in from behind it to poke the ball away outside the 18 so the keeper can't handle it, and then you end up getting the recycled idea for that one goal.
Right. Yeah, I mean, before Woody subbed into the game, one of our assistant coaches, Lauren Burke, had a side conversation with Kat about, what if, she's going to put the ball down and we kind of sneak up behind her, or she's going to take a punt or a goal kick, or just even put the ball off the ground and try to sneak in. And I think it all kind of stemmed from that side conversation that the two of them were having. And Kat told Woody before she went in the game, and lo and behold, the details, right? The details.
What's it like having Kat on your staff specifically? Because I know a lot of folks may sit there and look at your roster and go assistant coach, and you say, oh, wow, she's there. What's it like having, that's a shocker to come across the board. What's it been like to have her as a part of that collective?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, just her experience, obviously as a player, right, in the world stage, but also as a commentator. And she's an absolute loves soccer, loves. So she watches everything. I mean, all the EPL games. She's a huge Liverpool fan. So it's really neat, because we'll talk about trends or different styles, or what people are doing now, or how they're taking goal kicks even differently. And, watching World Cups, whether it's the men or the women or the Olympics. So it's really neat to have those conversations. And she's such a student of the game.
When it comes to output this season, you've got a lot of folks that have put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, you got Nimmer, who's in double digits. Michaela Camp had 9. Emily Woodall with 6. Bazzuti had a handful. Madison Tang had 3. You got a lot with 3 and a lot with 2. What's it like to have all of these different folks contribute to putting the ball in the back of the net for you offensively this year?
Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good that in any given game, someone can step up, because I mean, we've played teams where if you shut down their main goal scorer, and you get some looks at the goal, there's a great chance you're going to win. And for us, these have been like clutch goals. Some of these, they might be one-offs, but they're clutch goals. Like Maddie Tang with her 3. I mean, her 3 goals have been huge goals for us. But just, Nimmer, Mick, Zudi, Woody, Those guys, they are just born to score goals. They want to so badly all the time, and they have that same expectation for themselves. So, but to have as many players contribute, it's so great.
But then you look at things defensively, and you look at the rundown. I'm noticing a lot of zeros with a lot of the W's that are attached. So, time to brag on your defense and your keeper a little bit here. What's it been like to have all of these clean sheets this season to get you to this matchup coming up against Loras?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the tricky thing for our defenders and our goalkeepers is that Kat and I were defenders in college, obviously Kat in the world stage. So for those poor group of players, we nitpick the heck out of them. We are probably the hardest on them for sure. But I have to say that, there was a little bit of a turning point for Soph in goal where we kind of looked at her and said, hey, we need more from you. And our defenders have just gotten progressively better, and better. And I think it's the intensity with which they're defending as well, and the knowledge that especially right now in these big games, in the UAA games, like literally every moment matters. Somebody's going out to get a throw in, you can't relax, because especially like this weekend when we play Loras, they have long throws, like they have probably 3 players that can hit a long throw. So you can never take a minute off. And I think our defenders have just locked in so hard.
You mentioned Loras. We'll go ahead and go there. So you mentioned one aspect of study hall. What's the rest of study hall been like getting ready for Loras College up there in Dubuque?
They are very opportunistic, like really will take half chances like mad. I mean, and they're a pretty direct style of soccer. A lot of long balls, a lot of long serves and flicks and kick it forward. And then around the goal, they're opportunistic. They'll just get a piece of it. They'll get a foot in there. They'll run through it with their body. They're dangerous on corners. They play differently than we've seen. They play with a deep sweeper, like a 20-yard sweeper. So half of the film I'm watching, there's another player there that you can't see. So that's very different, and more man marking than we traditionally see. So it's definitely going to be different, but kind of a whole new challenge, which is exciting in and of itself.
I was going to ask, with a challenge like this where you're saying, okay, long throw in, long serve, sweeper playing, further back, and when you have all of these different variables coming at you, obviously it's kind of the things that coaches live for in these situations, to have those kinds of mental challenges, but you don't have a whole lot of time to impress that information upon your club so they can be prepared. That's what's it like, having to get all of that information into a very short period of time, noticing that there's a whole bunch of different things you have to account for that are different.
Yeah, it's a little bit stressful to be thinking about, okay, we've got to hit all of these things. But at the same time, you want to play to your own strengths, right? So you don't want to diminish your team's strengths. You don't want them for 1 minute to change the way they play. But you also have to realize how you clear a ball really matters. It really matters that you get your hips around the ball and you clear it inside the field. Because if you just clear it in your defensive third, that ball's coming right into the box on a long throw. So, again, the details matter, but you have to stay focused on yourself and what you do well while understanding what you're about to see.
Going into this particular weekend, you had a handful of players that got recognized by the conference for the work that they were able to do this season. What's it like to get these players recognized for what they were able to do this season in the UAA, 11 clean sheets, but with all the different goal scores and all that kind of stuff? You had a lot of recognition coming out the door.
We did, which was fantastic. And I think that's always a tough thing, is to figure out who to nominate. That's always so hard. But with Michelle being Defender of the Year, first team, fantastic. Nimmer clearly deserved it with as many goals as she's put on board. And Chase Korfman getting first team is just is kind of storybook, because Chase, freshman, sophomore, contributed, but less minutes. Then her junior year, she unfortunately tore her ACL, so wasn't able to play. And she just came back so ready and has just had a phenomenal, phenomenal season, and to have that recognition for her, for all of them. But that just, like I said, it's storybook. So, and then of course with Michaela and Claudia getting honorable mention, they have just been so consistent all season long and so good. And especially with Michaela being a freshman and being able to come in here and turn heads in the UAA, that's fantastic.
And you have a lot of young players, freshmen and sophomores, as a part of this roster that aren't playing like freshmen and sophomores now. They're playing more like those rising freshmen heading to sophomore year, the rising sophomore heading to junior year. They're playing like they've been around for a while, and that experience obviously helps as you go into a postseason where the youngins aren't young on the field anymore anyway.
No, and they're playing with so much more composure, and also understanding what is needed in any given moment of the game. And to be able to even just say something to them on the field, like, hey, right in this situation, we've really got to keep the ball. And then some bouncing ball comes into them and they bring it down and they pick their head up and they keep the ball in the final third instead of just, serving it into maybe one runner. So they've really progressed throughout the season, and I'm grateful that they have, because we really need them.
Emory heading to Dubuque to take on the Duhawks of Loras College. And I had to do some research to find out why it's a Duhawk. It had to do with early days of the college under a different name. And since they were based in Dubuque, it was the Dubuque Hawks, thus the Duhawks. So I would literally, in my research and trying to figure out what's a Duhawk, it's a hawk from Dubuque. And so that was where I got my lesson when it came to the visitors. Safe travels, Coach. It's 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon in Dubuque against Loras, third round NCAA Division III tournament. Thanks for everything that you guys have done so far to get all of our coverage on SDH to the third round. Good luck, be safe, and we'll catch up with you on the flip side.
Great. Thanks so much.